friends, welcome back to the channel, and a special warm thank you to the 34 new subscribers to the channel. Thank you for hitting the subscribe button. I hope you enjoy everything that you see here. It's time for another monthly update. I am here for June, and wow, people, June has been a bit of a bumpy ride, I must say. It started strong. It started very strong, full of stitching and the creative energy, you know, all of that jazz. Especially with the new format of the videos of the softly spoken series Stitch With Me's. But then my body had other ideas. So back in May, I started having some problems with my left knee. I was hobbling around on it, thought I could deal with it. And then, would you believe it, I hurt my back. So I've been pretty much sedate. So that's put pay to stitching and honestly almost everything else too. So therefore, all of my game plans that I had for June and all that creative energy seems to just have, yeah, it's gone, people. It's very gone. However, I did hit the floor running at the beginning of June with the stitching, so let's start there. So Halloween Quaker by Leela Studios, that is back in action in June. Again, this one was stitched in May, so of course it continued into June. It's stitched on a 40 count Newcastle linen, hand dyed by myself, and this one got a grand sum total of 8 days worth of stitching. All happened in the early part of the month. I must say, I was really enjoying just a few strands in the evening after work. Once I got past that really big motif at the very top, now that I'm into the smaller motifs, it's great. Just, you know, when you sit down and you're watching a bit of TV and you just want to do a strand or two, a few strands here and there, and give it, and it's really odd because I'm actually stitching this in summer. I'm stitching Halloween in summer. It's like unheard of. I think that's like, yeah, that's a new one for 2025. I don't think I've ever stitched on a Halloween project in the middle of summer. So I am absolutely loving it. I've made fair progress on it. At least I did at the beginning of the month. So yeah, it was a good effort and a good start for me. Obviously stitching on 40 count whilst in the evenings, I am having to use my mag eyes for that, but yeah, I've been loving it. And the fact that it's one strand and I can just do a few stitches, do a few strands and then put it away again. I don't think I did too bad for 8 days at the beginning of the month. So next on the stitch list is the Elizabeth Weston sampler. Elizabeth Weston was one of my time out projects, but with the softly spoken story format content and the story featuring around a sampler, it just felt right to use Elizabeth Weston as it's a sampler, right? And it was perfect. It was perfect. It went with the story. And so I had a surprise comeback. Now, for those of you that have been on this channel for a long time, you will know I originally started this project back on the 23rd of September for my birthday in 2020. And I decided to stitch it on a 28 count Belfast linen in the colourway Tudor Rose by Pole Stitches. But back then, after I'd stitched a portion of it, I thought the stitches looked too big. It was a little bit thick. I was stitching it 2 over 2. And I just really wasn't feeling it. So I threw caution to the wind and made the executive decision that I would order some new fabric and restart. So I restarted a second time around on a 36 count Edinburgh linen, custom dyed by XG Designs, using the same Avera Schwa silks. I was stitching it 1 over 1. Now, it didn't take me very long before I decided I didn't like the fabric colour. It was too close to the pale colour, or the palest colour, within the thread pack. So of course I did nothing more than basically threw it in timeout. So here we are again, revisiting back with the original 28 count Belfast linen by Pole Stitches. I restarted this and picked it back up on the 8th of June 2025. All I can say is thankfully I kept the original fabric and the stitched piece without repurposing it, because it's a huge bit of fabric. And under normal circumstances, I would have cut off the original part of the stitching and repurposed the fabric. Thankfully, I didn't do that. So now it's back and I'm stitching on it, and I have to say I am loving it. The colour of the fabric works perfectly. All the pink hues are working for this piece. I think the reason I decided to actually get the chart in the first place was because when I was out in Arizona and I went to the attic, the model stitch was on a fabric that was very, very similar to this with all the pink hues. So yeah, I'm back in love with it, and the design is gorgeous. This has had 2 days of stitching in June. Of course, both days have been whilst I was doing the softly spoken story of the Witches of Threadwell Cottage. And featuring a sampler, this was perfect for the job. But it did feel really good to be stitching on it again. I'd forgotten how much I loved it and I enjoyed this piece. And now that she's out, she'll probably stay out. We'll see how I get on with her for the rest of the year. But yeah, thoroughly enjoying that. So this is where the stitching stopped abruptly, along with everything else, thanks to the back situation. So of course, having a bad back, I've not really been able to do much of anything other than short spells of sitting, short spells of standing, short spells of shuffling around, and short spells of laying. So basically, I can't do much of anything in big chunks because all it does is irritate it. So this is a great segue into the softly spoken stories series that I've just started. So the final chapter of the Stitch Witches of Threadwell Cottage is nearly ready to render. It has taken me a little while to do it because I can't sit for more than around 20 minutes at a time. And of course, I edit while sitting down. So yeah, everything is taking so much longer. So the final episode is nearly all wrapped up in a bow and ready to be posted on YouTube. For those of you that have watched or listened to the first 2 episodes and sent me the lovely messages and kind words and lots of support, thank you so much. It was so encouraging. I was very nervous about posting those because it is so different to my normal content. I wasn't quite sure what the reaction would be. It's made me want to keep going with the storytelling format if a lot of you actually like it. The setup allows for me to record the narration side when the house is nice and quiet, which is not very often here, and then just record me stitching overhead and then combining the two together. It works perfectly for the dynamics of what the house is like these days, because things have changed over the years. You know, I used to have a lot of time where I was left at home to my own devices. It was lovely and quiet, hence the reason why I used to get so many videos up. Now, not so much. But because of that, if I'm just recording the stitching overhead, I can do that at any time, regardless of the noise. The telling of the stories was a lot harder than I anticipated when I first started doing it, because when you read out loud and you're telling the story and you're trying to keep pace and make sure that you put the pauses in, it's actually harder than you realize. I don't know about you, but when you read to yourself or you read in your head, you know, you pick up your book or you read in your Kindle, you don't read out loud, so you don't need to do it. But reading out loud, which I've not done since my school days, that takes a lot more thought than I realised, that's for sure. But it has been so much fun, and I've already got the next story thought out in my head, and I'm thinking about what I want to try. And I think I want to try to have stories that work with my whips, if that makes sense. So such as Life is an Open Book. It's got sort of, I don't know, it's got like a Paris feel about it. So then the story will have to have some relation to Paris. Either something happens in Paris or it's something to do with Paris. At least that way I can make sure that when I'm telling the story that has some sort of relation to it, then I can use the whips I've got. And the whips actually make sense to stitch. As another example, so I've got my maiden of Tabataha. Obviously, she's a mermaid. So, of course, that would need to either be something to do with mermaids, something under the sea, or something sea-related, or something fantasy-related. So, yeah, The plan in my head, whether this can actually happen, I don't know, because obviously I have to come up with the stories. The plan in my head is to try and make stories that have some sort of relation to the whip that I want to stitch on. And then I'll do a number of episodes. I'm trying and keep the episodes shorter because I'm trying to think, when I used to do the Stitch With Me's, they were normally around half an hour to 40 minutes. Now, I'll go with whatever you want. I mean, if actually you wanted them longer, I could do them longer. But for now, I've sort of stuck with around the 30-minute mark each episode. That seems to be a bit of a sweet spot. But I'm open to suggestions, people, whatever you want. You're the ones that sit there and listen to it and stitch with it and will do whatever it is that you're doing with it. So, yeah, let me know. Is 30 minutes sort of around the sweet spot, or do they need to be longer, or do they actually need to be shorter? Because I can do either. It makes no difference to me. I just record the narration side and then I just add the stitching. But as the content is for you, I think you should have a say. So yeah, let me know. Let me know in the comments below what works best. So with all this resting I'm doing, of course, Wimbledon has now started. But before that, with all the resting, there was nothing but boredom, which for me is always dangerous. It's a dangerous combination to be home and bored. So with not being able to do any stitching in my usual way with stands or Q-snaps or any of that, I stitch two-handed. So I normally have to have a frame or something that holds the stitching and I do the stitching. So I had a thought to myself that if I could find some very small projects that I could try stitching in hand, at least that way I could do some stitching, because currently I can't do any stitching because I can't really lean forwards, and no matter how much I'm trying to do it, if I'm holding a Q-snap or I'm in front of a stand, I'm finding that I have a tendency of wanting to lean forwards, which my back doesn't let me do. So in my head, I'm like, well, if I got a small enough piece, maybe I could do some sort of like, you know, something that's small enough that if it's a little messy, it doesn't matter, but I can actually have a go at stitching in hand, because that way I can sit and I don't need to move my back for that. So of course, stash diving commenced, and now I've realised that I have no summer smalls, none. I have lots of Christmas, but I'm like, no, I'm not doing Christmas. And I've got big ones and I've got medium projects, but I haven't got anything that's lovely and small that I could use to turn into like little cushions or little things, something to put like over here on my display or on the side or in a dough bowl. I just don't have anything. So I know I've spoken about this before, but now I'm forced to look at something I can stitch in hand, as the back is just not going to let me do any stitching currently, and I need to nurse the back. So I've been eyeing up a few designers online, I'll be honest. So a few of the ones that I found that I think I quite like these are Ink Circles Forget-Me-Nots. Really love that one, especially the little elephant. I've seen a October House Fibre Arts, I think it's called the Strawberry Patch. I've seen a Jean Douglas Happy Life set for spring. What else did I see? There's a New York Dreamer, the Grandma's Kitchen. Love that. Samplers and Primitive, Sweet Spring. What other ones did I find? Madame Chantilly Fast Food. Like that one. Madame Chantilly again, the Halloween mice. So they're the ones that I've took screenshots of that I'm like, I think I might quite like stitching on something like that, and they're nice and small, which is exactly what I need. But I do know that Plum Street Samplers has those gorgeous salt box style designs, and they're really summery and classic. And then you've got, I know, Brenda Gervais, which I think we struggle to get over here in the UK. They've always got a go-to. She's got like the berries, the patriotic pieces, and the really sweet garden theme ones. I did see hands-on design. There was one called Toes in the Sand. that I really like. So that's an option. And I think she also does the Year of Celebration series, like just those little finishes. What else have I seen? I think Heart Street Samplers, they've got the For the Love of Stitching that I quite liked. Madame Chantilly also had red flowers and blue flowers. I did actually fall down a rabbit hole with that one because I also saw Rabbit. Is it Rabbit in the Lettuce and Curious Rabbit? So yeah, so you can see I've done some online scrolling. I've not actually purchased. I've done online strolling. And then I saw, now I've never heard of these before, so these were new to me. Is it Summer House Stitchy Works? And I saw, is it Fragments in Time 2023 number 6 and number 7? And they're slightly different again to any of the other things that I was looking at. So yeah, like I say, I've took like little screenshots of everything that I thought I might like, but I'm planning on doing a proper online browse over the weekend. But honestly, I know you're all so much better at this than me, especially on the great designs for smalls. So come on, community, it's suggestion time. Let me know your favourites and how and what has been your go-to designers for your quick summer finishes. I need help filling this seasonal gap, especially this behind me, because it's bare and nobody else's is bare, and I don't want to be the odd one out anymore. And the fact that I'm sort of stuck, not rigid, but I am stuck sort of not being able to do my usual stitching, this could be the cure. So you know, over on my YouTube channel, there is an area called posts, and it's a post page. So I'll be putting up a post as this video goes live. So if you've already stitched some great smalls, or you have some in your stash that you think that are great little finds, if you can share links either to Instagram, a Facebook, or a website, or a picture of the design on a website, you can pop the link in the comments underneath the post that I do. So if you put it into there rather than in the comments on this video, that way anyone else that is also looking for summer smalls can check out the links too and get inspired. So let's get the community in on the smalls action, because if I need to be on it, then so does everybody else. But at least if we do it on the communities tab, like the posts tab underneath the actual the post that I do, everyone else can actually just go and click on all of the links that everyone puts in. And like I say, it doesn't have to be to just a website. If you're one of those lovely people that shares all your gorgeousness all over Facebook and all over Instagram, and you've got like your finishes and you've got them all finished and looking all pretty, you can actually just put the link to your post that you've done in Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever you use, so that everyone else can see it, and just that way we can see what the project is, and yeah, we can all be enabled, because it's not that I need any more enabling, I just now actually need something that I can do. So yeah, I need you to help me do something, people. So with all that said, July planning, it depends really on the back. So if the back is still a problem, July is going to need to be soft and flexible, is all I can say. Soft and flexible, and I'm just going to have to see what I can do and what I can't do. Of course, Whip Go didn't happen in June because of the back, and we'll have to wait and see what happens in July, because as a worst case scenario, I can just play catch up later in the months on the goals that I need to meet that I haven't met in June and July. There is no hard and fast rules here. I want to tackle some smalls and see if I can learn to stitch in hand, at least for the time being, with the back issues. So we can see what I can manage to do there. I do need to be able to stitch more comfortably. I think this has sort of highlighted that. So it may be that I need to make some adjustments to the way that I stitch now and look ergonomically at things. So if you've got any ergonomic tips for stitching, for better stitching comfort for me or for anybody else, then please put those in the comments below, because at some point the back will get better. I am quite mindful now that, you know, now this has happened once, I don't think it would take a lot for it to happen again, because you tend to find that, don't you? People that have a back problem, they then start to have continual back problems, and I don't want to be that person, because yeah, I need to be doing all the things. This whole sitting around doing not much of anything has been, yeah, it's drove me a bit crazy. So all I can say is I hope you all have a wonderful July. Please make sure to do some stitching for me, because I really don't anticipate that I'm going to be doing much, but I will be back with an update at the end of July, and we can see exactly what I do or don't get done. But if I don't have any stitching to tell you or to show you, then of course it'll be a bit more like this, a bit more of a life update type video, but you know, I'll be able to share what I do manage to get done. So have a lovely July all. Happy stitching, and bye bye for now.